a super special video because I'm working with
me, Jimbo Bernaus.
And it was only meant to be 30 minutes long, but it turns out we have way too much to say when it comes to custom lettering from the 90s. So you're getting an hour-long tutorial. Jimbo and I have been working on this collaboration for over a year. We were supposed to launch this toolkit at the start of last year, and it actually never happened because we've just been so busy. And when it came to the logistic, we kind of didn't really know how to make it work. So we decided instead to give it to you guys for free. So yes, you're getting a complete toolkit with a tutorial for free, kind of like a little Christmas gift from us to you guys. Like I said, we have prepared a little toolkit that you can download underneath the description of this video. In my download, you will get everything you need for this tutorial, but make sure you also go and download Jimbo's tutorial and toolkit because it will have different resources from mine. So this toolkit is inspired from the 90s because we both grew up during the 90s and we've obviously been heavily influenced by that era. I don't think there are many resources out there about the 90s, so we thought, why not make a toolkit inspired by that era? So you'll see that there is plenty of little icons that you can use. There are also special brushes that resemble markers, like Copic markers, and they all have like different blending modes. So you can play around with this style and recreate something that looks like the 90s. So yeah, make sure you download all of your resources underneath this video and let's get started. This is the piece we're going to recreate together. I'm going to show you every single step from drawing the lettering to adding the dimensional effect and then coloring it, and finally how to add those tiny little final touches. I have tried to make this as 80s, 90s as possible, so you'll see that the type of lettering I'm using is kind of like old school, same as the color palette and the actual elements. So I'm using obviously all of the brushes from the free toolkit that we are giving you guys, and I'm going to show you how to make the best use of those brushes. So first things first, let's create a new canvas. I am going to make a new custom canvas, which is going to be in pixel 2800 by 3500 pixels. I'm working at 300 dpi. My iPad allows me to have 64 layers. For the color profile, I'm working in RGB and I can click done. So I've decided to do the quote, "You're the bomb," and therefore I'm just going to start sketching some thumbnail ideas. And for that, I can use the 4B pencil and I'll just be using black. So the sentence is "You're the bomb." I want the word bomb to be the biggest word, the main word. The word there can be a bit smaller, and "your" is not going to be the main focus, but I can make it slightly bigger than the word "the." So the way I like to do it is kind of like just figuring out some like composition ideas, and with this one I'm gonna go with something stacked like that, pretty simple. And what I can do is kind of figure out what I can do for the word "your," and I'm thinking something a bit kind of retro with those kind of like rounded letter forms, and maybe on an arc like that could work. And the word "the" could be script, same as the word "bomb." It could be kind of like a script typeface like this, and we can add the exclamation mark. That's kind of cool. So let's go ahead and kind of refine that concept. Because I want the letters to be kind of retro, I think we'll need this kind of like futuristic style of letter form. So it's very geometric shape where the O is kind of like just a full straight circle, and the E is rounded like that with a crossbar in the middle. That could be like on an arc or maybe kind of scattered around. Maybe the word "the" can be a bit more like this. And then the bomb, I think I want to go with kind of like my trusty script style that I always do. Like this is my go-to style forever. We can even have like a little loop there. See how that goes. And maybe we could have like a flourish down the bottom just to add something. Big curl. I like this. So what I'm going to do is just refine this concept one more time. Let's just copy and paste, make it a bit bigger. We can lower the opacity of this copy, and let's just, you know, refine that as quickly as possible without overdoing it, because this is not our final sketch. And what I'll do, guys, as well, is give you a template of the lettering. So if you're not feeling confident with your letter forms and you're still like working on your lettering, it's a good idea to kind of use a template, and you can like use that as a reference. Or you can just decide, okay, I'm going to use the template. I'm just going to worry about the embellishments today. I'm not working on my lettering, so I'll use the template, and you can use that. That's totally fine. But what I recommend, obviously, is to practice and draw your own lettering. You can do any quote you want in any style. My recommendation would be to kind of go online and type like 90s typefaces, or, you know, like 80s lettering, because that would fit this vibe really well. So that's what I want to encourage you to do. Okay, so this is when I like to kind of refine things a little bit. So I'm moving this down the bottom so I can have a bit more of a loop here. It kind of balances out the lettering, I think. And here we can have like a big, really big curl. So you can see how I draw my curls. Like, as always, I like try and go bits by bits and kind of making sure I gradually kind of make things a little bit more rounded. And I rotate my canvas a lot, so you'll see me rotate the canvas. Hopefully that doesn't give you too much of a headache. But I find that this is really the best way to do it. Okay, so this is very rough, but I can hide that in the background. And now that I have this kind of like rough sketch, I can kind of picture now what I want to do with the effect. So I know I'm going to add like a really big dimensional effect. So I'm going to need some space here for the dimension and some space at the bottom. It will make sense in a minute when you see it, but what I can do is just make that full size, kind of like in the middle of the canvas. And now I can move on to refining my final sketch. I'm going to start with the word your, and what I'm going to do is draw some guidelines, and I'm going to draw the letters on a straight line. And what I'll do is I'll then put it on an arc or kind of scattered around, but when I'm going to work and draw the final letter forms, I'm going to work on a straight line so I can really figure out the proportions and make sure everything is aligned and correct, and then I can kind of move it on an arc. This is where you can use a pre-made typeface as well. Like this is totally fine, like you don't have to draw it by yourself, but I'm going to show you how I draw mine. Okay, so let's draw just a straight line. And I'm going to duplicate it. And merge these two together. So I have my two guidelines on a separate layer, then create a new layer, and I'm gonna literally start drawing my letter form. And what I like to do is start with a single stroke first that I can reuse. So let's say the R, I can use this stroke here, just roughly like that. And I can duplicate that now and use that for other letter forms. So this is how I usually draw my letters. Like I keep recycling shapes, and that will ensure that you have consistency in your letters, and it's also a lot easier. So I can use that for the U. So obviously I'm going to need to kind of erase the bottom. I'm still using the same brush, still using the HB pencil. And I can just draw a little arc like that. And duplicate that. Okay, let's do the O because that's going to be easy. It's a full straight circle. And as you guys know, it needs to go slightly above and below the baseline, so otherwise it will look smaller than the other letters. So let's do that. Make it slightly taller. And it's okay if it's not a perfect circle, I think. That's going to make it a little bit more organic. And then let's draw the inner circle. You just draw and hold. Hopefully you guys know how to do that. If not, just ask me in the comments if there's any question, because I'm going a bit fast. I'm kind of assuming that you guys have done tutorials with me and Jimbo before, and you know exactly what to do. Hopefully. And if you're new, if you're this is your first time doing lettering, this is totally fine as well. You're in the right place. And if you have questions, just let me know in the comments. So what I can do to draw the Y is just reuse my U. Let's merge everything together. So all of my lettering is like on one layer. I can just literally copy and paste the U, bring it here. I'm selecting just the bottom part, and then I'm going to drag it up somewhere around here. I can erase small bits that are coming out. And all I have to do is kind of grab this section here, copy and paste it. Let's flip it horizontally, and like this. Bring it in the middle, and there you have your amazing Y without having to draw anything new. And that really makes sure that everything is consistent, like, because everything is the same width, everything is the same shape. Yeah, let's do the same for the E. Like, we can use the O for our E. Let's bring it here. And what I'm going to do is just erase this section here. And that'll give me the nice curl of the E. And I can just connect these two. And there we have it. And you've guessed it, we're going to use some part of the R for the crossbar of the E. But this one, we might have to make it slightly smaller. Just so that it's not like too prominent, something like this. Perfect. Let's merge everything together and erase this. We've got the R that still needs to be done. Let's move that out of the way. And with the R, same thing, I'm just going to use this section of the U. I think that is probably going to be just fine. I like that. I think it's fine. And let's merge my layers. Make sure you're not merging the guides, because that happens. That has happened to me in the past. Very annoying. So that's why I recommend renaming your layers. That way you know exactly what you're doing. Let's draw the little feet part of the arm, whatever you want to call it. Like a leg, the leg part. Let's draw the leg part of the R. And that's about all right, maybe a little bit thicker. So you can see how I adjust my letters. I kind of zoom out and kind of make a decision to make it smaller, bigger, or more on an angle. And then I just erase some sections or move them around. So it's all about like adjusting with your lettering. Like you will have some sort of like base and then you need to adjust. So it's all about adjusting a lot. Let's do the little apostrophe. I'm just gonna go with it like a straight kind of like shape here and then just connect these two like this. Easy. So we've got the like straight lettering. Let's fix this kerning because that's not a vibe. And what I can do now is kind of like arrange it however I want. Let's just hide the base for now and the guide. And what I can do is just play around, kind of move things around, just to give my lettering a bit more dynamism, like so it's not so straight and like perfect, because it's all about the 90s. Like even if you look at the Pokemon logo, like everything is kind of like all over the place. So this is the vibe I'm going for. So this is why I'm kind of ignoring my baseline and making things moving around. Awesome, I like that. Let's move on to, I'll put the sketch back up. Let's move on to the word the. And with this one, I just want this like kind of hand-drawn, like rough look. So really all I need to do is kind of draw my lettering like that. I kind of really want to make it look like it's been handwritten very quickly with a pencil, and doesn't have to be perfect again. Okay, so this is just a reference because at the end we'll kind of trace on top of everything with the marker. So I'm happy with that. Let's move on to the word bomb. And with this one, it will take a little bit longer for me to draw it because this is a script typeface, so you can't really reuse bits and pieces like the word your that we did, that sans serif font. So what I recommend if you're doing a lettering that's script like that is to have a reference next to you. So have a lettering that is similar to what you intend to do next to you, so you can kind of just look at the proportions and the shape of the letter forms and kind of replicate that. Like you don't have to necessarily copy, but it's all about understanding how other people do it, how it's done, and then redoing that for yourself. All right, so I'm gonna use a separate layer for that, and let's start with the B. I think that's what makes the most sense to me. So I have done this type of lettering so many times before that I know what I want my B to look like, and I've done this many times before. So like I said, if this is your first time, try and redo what I'm doing and have references next to you. If you want to go ahead and do your own lettering, do that as well. But I just want to mention that it took me a while to be able to do that very quickly. So don't feel like you have to be that quick. And you can see when I draw a curve, like I like to draw and hold and kind of draw an arc, and that really helps you create those like super nice rounded shapes. And what I like about this groovy type of lettering as well is that you can really like exaggerate things. Like, for example, here you can see I'm kind of going bigger than my sketch, just making that curl even bigger, even bouncier, even juicier. And my next tip is to use the liquify tool. So if you go into your adjustment and you click liquify, you can change the size of your brush and you can just like drag things around, and that's how you can make your lettering like extra bouncy, extra juicy, because you can kind of move things around like that. So this is my favorite tip, I should say. It really works and it's super useful. So totally recommend that you use that. Now with these shapes, like for example, you can see here I'm like crossing, and I will delete that later, but it's very important that you keep your path kind of crossing first and then make sure they look correct, and then you can erase. I think this is a bit too thin. Make that a bit bigger. So guys, feel free to let me know in the comments what you find the most difficult as well when you draw your lettering like that. Never feel bad about sharing anything, because it really helps. Like, I'm pretty sure Jimbo would agree, but if you guys ask us question, we'll be able to like answer it in future tutorials or live or whatever. Because sometimes like it's very, when you used to do something, like it feels natural to you, but maybe not for someone else. So yeah, let me know what part of the process you find the most difficult. What is it that you struggle with the most when it comes to like doing this type of thing? For example, here, like this curl is kind of like going very thin here, and I think that looks a little bit awkward. I think it would be better to have it like quite nice and big. So I'm gonna literally adjust and make it super big like that. But yeah, let me know in the comments. And when I look at this, like I can see that this is a little bit smaller compared to the rest. So what I can do is select this section and just make it bigger. And I can move it like that a little bit as well on the side, just so it's like a bit more of a flowy lettering. Let's move on to the O, which is kind of just like an oval shape. Again, I'll have things crossing like that, but I can easily delete all of that later. But I think it's important to have everything crossing first before you erase. That just helps you create the skeleton, and then you can erase the crossing line like that. Awesome. Okay, let's keep going. Gonna go a little bit quicker now because you guys can see how I do it. Now you know. But I think with this lettering, like I don't want something that's too perfect as well. Like I like this more like hand-drawn feel. A bit more quirky and bouncy. So you can see as well, there's a lot of back and forth between the eraser and the brush. But this is literally still my sketch, so it will get better once we do the final pass. All right, we're almost done. Again, to give a bit more movement to this exclamation mark, like instead of having it all the same size, like I can make the top a little bit bigger and then the bottom a bit thinner, like that. Just to give it a little bit more rhythm and just makes it a bit bouncier. There you go. Let's hide that original sketch. This is the moment where I can kind of erase anything that's incorrect. Remove the lines that are kind of overlapping, and I can also kind of rearrange my words so that they are kind of positioned a little bit better. This can go a bit smaller, and this can go a bit more centered, and I'm kind of happy with that. It's not looking that great for now, but the idea is that I want to have lots of space here so I can have a dimensional effect. So the word your is kind of going to come down. I won't add a dimension on the word the, but the word bomb will have dimension at the bottom. So everything will be kind of going down like that. So that's why I want to have a bit more space. But yeah, hopefully you have some type of lettering that looks like this. I have provided this template for you guys, so if you want to work from that, you can. That's totally fine. So at the moment it is still, like I said, a sketch made with the pencil. So what I'm going to do is I can literally just merge everything together, and I'm just going to kind of lower the opacity of this lettering, and I'm going to be using the clean liner just with black again, and I'm just going to go and trace every single shape and kind of refine everything so it's nice and clean, nice and sharp, and I'm going to go around everything like that. So I will share the time lapse. I'm gonna not share the entire thing because you guys, I promise, like I'm just tracing over that with that liner pencil, nothing magical here. And I will see you after I finish that. So just like that, I'm gonna do every single shape, okay? I'll be right back. And just a quick note as well, I'm working with 16%. So if you have the same size canvas as mine, if you make your brush 16%, so the clean liner brush, you should have the exact same drawing as mine. Just a FYI. Okay, so now let's add the dimensional effect on the word your. And to do that, it's very simple. You just duplicate the layer where it says your, and you're going to move it down a little bit. But what we're going to do is lower the opacity of that layer so we can use it just as a reference. Let me hide everything else so it's easier to see. And I'm going to kind of go nice and low somewhere around here and make it slightly smaller, just a little bit, so it creates this kind of like perspective effect. And I'm gonna go somewhere around here. Let's lower the opacity a bit more so it's not too overpowering. And now I'm creating a new layer just above that reference, and all I'm going to do is kind of trace my dimensional effect. And I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller. So if you guys remember, we're at 16%, but I want something a little bit smaller. So let's go 6%. And all I'm going to do now is kind of connect the edges like that. So this will be connecting to this. So I need to go kind of straight like that. And then this one. This is going to be a bit confusing because obviously you don't want to draw these lines because that's the dimension here. So what I would recommend is just following along with me and doing your best. If you draw something that you shouldn't draw, just erase it. But this is going to take a little bit of concentration like that. And literally, if you kind of hide that, it should make sense. Like if there's a weird line coming here, just erase it. So let's go ahead and do the entire word. Just connecting the corners first. So it's just a bunch of straight lines. They should all go in the same direction. If you've done any of my classes before or tutorials, you will know exactly what you have to do. Just connect. Everything should be on the same angle when you do that. And that means you're doing it right. So you see I draw and I hold. So it's a straight line. Something like this. This is a bit hard to see, but and then we just connect those lines that we've just drawn. Okay, and I'm just going to hide it just to check, and you can see I forgot this part here, so let's just draw that one. Let's hide that again, and that should be pretty good. Like, it looks like a dimension, so that's good. Now what I'm going to do is do a second line in the middle. So you can go ahead and kind of draw a line in the middle like that and kind of approximatively draw it, but I think it's much easier to actually duplicate your guide that you have, like the lower opacity sketch. You duplicate it and you move it up slightly, kind of halfway through that dimension. So you can see it's kind of like halfway here. But you can see it doesn't connect to the edges. So I just make it slightly bigger, because you guys remember we made it smaller. So now that we're going back up, we need to make it slightly bigger. Hopefully that makes sense, but it should touch the edge here. And kind of halfway here, I can create a new layer, and now I can draw that middle line with a reference. And that just adds a little bit of an edge. I think that just looks a bit nicer. So totally optional, you don't have to do that if that's too complex and that doesn't make sense. But I think it should be fine. Like, if you just copy what I'm doing, you guys will be sweet. So it's just a matter of kind of dividing that dimensional effect into two sections, and that will look typical. And let's hide the two references that we have, and we should have a typical dimensional effect. Let's put that back. Now, what we can do is just kind of erase this part, because that's going behind the lettering. So let's just, first of all, let's just group everything that is the word your, so that layers don't get too messy. And let's just erase that section here, so that it's out of the way. It's not bothering us. Okay. Now, what I've done as well is add a bit of a dimension inside the word your, just to, again, give it a bit more of an edge and a bit more personality and character. So I'm going to create a new layer right above the lettering U, so the main one. And on that layer, I'm going to be using the same brush, clean liner, and still maybe 6%. So I was 6%, if you guys remember. And I'm just going to kind of draw inside of the letter, draw the inner part, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do the letter U so you guys can see. But all I'm going to do is draw kind of like a second stroke inside of my letter that's roughly the same distance from the edge every time. So I'm going to try and approximatively keep it the same distance. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. That's not the goal. The goal is not to make it perfect, because then it would look too digital anyway. We want to have that kind of hand-drawn look to it. So just do your best. And you can see I'm erasing things whenever I need to. This section, I'm going to go slow and kind of do it bit by bit and do some arcs like that. And do my best, really. Kind of adjust if I need to. And if something is a little bit wonky like that, I can just erase and redo it, do a better job like that. Again, if you've done something that needs a little bit of adjustment, you can use the liquify tool like that and kind of move things around just to make it a bit better. And once you have that, you can simply just connect your edges. So I'm just going to kind of connect this corner to this corner like that. And you have some sort of dimensional effect now. Now, for everything that's rounded, like this bottom part, what you can do is kind of imagine this is a circle, and I'll show you on the O in a minute, but you can imagine that the line that's separating the shapes is kind of like at a 45-degree angle. So you can just draw two lines like this, and that kind of separates the shape. So you have a top, a bottom, a left and a right, if that makes sense. So I'm going to show you on the O just so you can see. Make sure you're still on a separate layer. What you want to do is draw your two lines like that. So perfect circle. Probably one of my favorite tricks in Procreate, because drawing a straight circle, that would require and then match level of talent. Now, if I wanted to say have a top, a bottom for all of the shapes, because we're gonna have a light color at the top, a darker color at the bottom, we need to have dividers. So like I said, 45-degree angle here, 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 and here. And that will allow us to have kind of like a light color at the top. So like the light was coming here, a darker color at the bottom, and something on the left and something on the right, like again, different colors. And that's how you create that kind of like bevel effect with colors. I'm gonna do the same for all of the letters, and I'll be right back. All right, so there we have it. If you guys are really stuck, this is your moment to pause the video and redraw exactly the same as mine. Now, for the word bomb, please don't hate me, but I added a little stroke around the edges. I just thought it would make it a little bit more legible and more cool. What I've done really is just draw the stroke. There is no magic tool in Procreate that allows you to do that, so let's go ahead and do that. You can use any trick you want. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a stroke and come back. Let's create a new layer just above the word bomb, and again with the thinner setting, so 6%, I'm just going to go ahead and draw an outline around my lettering. And guys, I'm so sorry again to have to make you do this. If you don't want to add the stroke, don't, but I just think it really adds some character to your lettering. And I just wish Procreate had a setting to do that without having to draw it. Okay, well, almost done. And there we have it. Okay, so I drew the entire outline. Oh, I forgot this part here. And it's not perfect, but it does add a bit of personality to my lettering, and I think it looks a lot better. Now, I am going to, again, erase those sections here. So I need to go back to the word your and the dimensional effect. So I can merge these two. So like this dimensional effect can be on a separate layer. And with my eraser, I'm just going to erase whatever is behind the word bomb. Again, just like this. Now we are going to create a dimensional effect again for the word bomb, and I'm just going to do the exact same thing as the word your, so kind of duplicating the word bomb and making it slightly smaller, but this time I'm going to duplicate the stroke that we've just drawn. So let's duplicate the actual stroke, make it slightly smaller, and go down about the same distance as before. Let's lower the opacity. And you've guessed it, we're just going to draw that. So I'm going to draw it and then come back and show you what it looks like. All right, we're almost done. The last thing we're going to do is add some decorative elements, little details. So we're gonna add some light bulbs and a couple of stamps just to fill in the blanks. So I will let you play with this. You are more than welcome to add any stamps you want. There's plenty available in the brush set. So let's add a Rubik's Cube first, which I will place somewhere around here. I'm also gonna add, I'll keep everything on separate layers just so I can make sure it's organized, but let's add a little smiley face around here. I'm gonna make it a bit bigger, kind of on an angle like that. Super cute. And one more, let's go with the diamond, again on a separate layer. And I can use it to kind of fill in that space here. This is looking good. I'm also going to add some stars, in which I am going to stamp in random spots. Kind of have them different sizes. And if you guys have different sizes of stroke, like for example, if you make it really big, you can see it's a little bit thicker. So what I would do is just stamp it and then draw on top with the same pencil that you used. For example, if you used the clean liner at 6%, then draw that. So only use the stamp as a reference, which is probably what I'm going to do here, because I feel like they all have like different thickness, like the stroke is slightly different. So what I can do is literally very quickly lower the opacity of my stars, create a new layer, and then using again the clean liner set to 6%, I can just literally trace on top, and that will ensure more consistency. And honestly, I think I'm going to do that for all shapes, because I think it will just look more consistent. It will look like one single drawing. So with my clean liner brush, I'm just drawing on top. Nothing too fancy here again. Now I'm going to just erase everything that's kind of like hidden. So I want this smiley face to look like it's behind the word bomb. So I'm just going to erase this section. Now with this one, I want it to be in front of the B. So I'm not going to erase the cube. Instead, I'm going to erase this part of the stroke. And there you go. Okay, so the sketch is almost fully finished. The last detail I want to add is some light bulb on the word bomb, so it looks kind of like a retro sign. I literally just created a new layer and drew my little light bulb. So it's just a circle with a little bit of a kind of base like that, and just some electrical thing in the middle. And then you've guessed it, we're just going to duplicate the layer as many times as we want to kind of go all the way around like this. Okay, you might have to merge a couple of layers so you don't end up with millions of little light bulb layers, but I'm nearly done here. Just going around the edges, trying to spread them out evenly. Doesn't have to be perfect again, but do your best. And feel free to just do different styles of light bulb and different sizes. Like it's totally open to interpretation. Like there is no right or wrong. Okay, let's merge everything together. I have all of them on one layer now, and it's looking good. Okay, there's one last thing I want to add before we move on to adding colors, and that is to add like a empty 3D effect. And to do that, I'm going to select the main stroke, the first stroke that we did for the lettering of the word bomb, and I'm going to duplicate it. Same thing again, I'm going to move it down slightly, somewhere around here. And bear with me, we're going to lower the opacity of that again. And we're just going to draw the inside that's visible here, just like if there was like an inner bevel. And I, again, would recommend just doing the same as mine if you're really struggling. And if this is just not working for you and you don't like it, feel free to just skip this step. I'm going to make it black so I can go a little bit thicker with my stroke. Something like this, kind of just like going above like that. Make sure you only go on the inside, so on the inside of your initial lettering, like the very first lettering that we did. And that will require some concentration. I give you that. Sometimes I get it wrong as well. But it's about just going slow, being patient, and zooming out often so you can see if there's something that you've done that doesn't look right. And if something looks off, guys, just have a look at mine and just compare. And if there is a little light bulb in the way like that, just draw around it. I think that adds like a little extra layer of dimension doing this like empty 3D effect, and that looks quite nice. And if you had a light bulb going over the main stroke, again, just erase it. I'll do that again, but like that. And we're all done for the lettering part, which is definitely the hardest part because a strong lettering foundation is the most important. Now we can move on to just adding colors, so having fun with it, and I promise this is going to be the fun part. Now, before adding colors, I'm just going to merge everything together because I don't really need to have multiple layers, but I'm still going to keep a copy just in case. So what I can do is kind of group all of my layers, absolutely all of them, and then duplicate that entire group, hide the one underneath, that will be my backup, and then the one on top I can just flatten, and I should have everything on one single layer now. This layer, I think I'm going to change the blending mode to multiply because it has that kind of like marker effect to it, and I think if I have a colored background, I really want it to look like the ink is sinking in the background. So let's just change that to multiply. It won't look any different for now, but I promise it will in a minute. What I can do is straight away change the background color. So I can create a new layer right underneath that sketch that is now set to multiply and kind of drag purple into it. Let's go ahead and start with the word bomb, and I'm going to create a new layer above that purple layer. And in the color palette, feel free to pick whatever you want, but I'm going to pick this yellow color. I let you play with the brushes, but you will see that they all behave differently. So if you use a marker, it will have kind of like that blending effect to it, which can look really cool. Again, I want you to play with it. There is no right or wrong, but this one again is kind of like blending the color, almost like if it was a real marker on paper. But the one I'm going to use is the Copic marker because this one doesn't really have a blending mode, and that will allow me to kind of just color my lettering like that. And guys, this is really the fun part. Like, there is no right or wrong here. You can have fun. You can go multiple times on top. You can make sure that you have those like hand-drawn marks. That's the goal, like to have this kind of like hand-drawn effect to it, like this. Like, I'm not trying to make it perfect. I'm quite happy with that. I can move on to maybe adding some pink. You can see I've added some yellow to the Rubik's Cube as well, and I'm just gonna add pink. I think that will be all for my color palette. Like, I don't want to add any orange or blue. So let's create a new layer. So it's going to be my pink layer. So I have everything yellow on a separate layer. Now everything pink. And I think I'm gonna simply make the dimension pink like that. Just gonna do the exclamation mark and see what it looks like. I think that looks good. Let's keep going. This is looking good. I think what I can do is use like a very light color, maybe like this super light purple, to kind of bring up some elements. And I think the word "the" is going to need that. Maybe the outline on the word "bomb" and some element on the word "you." I will show you in a minute how I color the bevel effect, and that's probably the only like tricky part of the coloring process. I will try and explain it in the easiest way possible. So I'm going to create a new layer again. So I have my layer with the pink, my layer with the yellow, and I'm going to have a layer with the light purple. And I'm going to use still the same brush, still the Copic marker, and I'm just going to trace the outline. And that is just going to help bring out the word bomb a bit more and make it stand out. Okay, let's move on to the tricky part, which is the bevel effect on the word your. So what I'm going to do is try and divide every single facet into 4 categories. So the top, the bottom, the left, and the right. So I'm going to demonstrate with the O. So every shape that's at the top is going to be my lightest shade of purple, almost white. Every shape that's at the bottom is going to be my darkest shade of purple. Something like this. So this is the bottom shape, the top shape, and then the left is going to be the second lightest. Something like this. And for this one, I'm going to use the darkest color again, but I'm just going to set the opacity of my brush to about 30%. And that's going to kind of allow me to gradually add a bit of a darker color here. Perfect. We can add a color on the middle part as well. That's totally fine. It's, again, optional, but maybe like a lightest color of purple. And if you set your brush to 30% opacity again, you can kind of add a bit of a lighter purple in the middle. That's going to make the word kind of stand out a bit, like that. That looks really cool. I'm quite happy with that. I think that really gives almost like a stained glass window effect. And that really looks way more organic and natural and hand-drawn compared to, I don't know, something like super digital. So I'm going to do the others and you guys can copy mine exactly the same. Okay, I've done all of the top parts. I actually forgot this one. Now let's do the bottom. I like to do top bottom, so it's out of the way, and that's the easy one, and then left and right. That just looks so cool. That creates such a cool effect, and it's super easy. In just a few strokes, you can really like make your lettering pop, like any type of lettering for that matter. Like you can reuse this technique for any type of lettering, which I hope you will. I'm just going all the left. Actually forgot this one, which is bottom. And now let's do all the right, so about 30% opacity. And now let's do the inner part, which is also going to be 30% opacity. Let's make that quite big. Just again to give it a bit of texture, I think, because it's not really making much difference, but it brings up almost like a paper effect, because that's how we made those brushes. Like most of them, like we used like actual paper texture to give them like that grainy look. Oh, this is so cool. Really having a moment right now. I love it. Guys, let's do the same for the diamond. So this is going to be a dark facet. Let's lower the opacity to 30%. Create like a medium one. Now a lighter one. And an even lighter one in the middle for like a nice highlight. Okay, I've got my diamond. What I can do is just duplicate it. So I can duplicate the stroke first. So let's just duplicate the actual drawing. Duplicate it twice because I think it needs to be a little bit more balanced, like that. That's better. Like that was missing something there. Let's merge everything together so the sketch is all on one layer, and then I can just duplicate what I've done for the purple. So everything purple is on one layer, like everything for the word your I put on one layer, by the way. It's not very important at this stage, like unless you're doing like a client job, like you don't always need to keep everything on separate layer. And I'm just copying that, as you can see, so that it roughly fits. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. Let's duplicate that again. Place our little coloring behind the stroke of the diamond, just like so. And let's merge these purple colors together. So all purple are on one single layer. Now let's add a bit of texture in the background because this purple is just a single flat color. So I'm going to create a new layer just above my purple background. And in those brushes we've given you guys, there's a paper texture. And if you play with it, you can see that it just adds a bit of texture. You can use any color you want. You can use any blending mode. I'm just going to use the lightest purple color and just go all over with my brush, and it just adds a bit of a texture to it. Now to make this pop again even more, I've also created a new layer with the halftone brush, so the ordered halftone brush, and I kind of just went in the back like that. And you guys, it's up to you if you want to add that or not. I'm just going to like add it in the background and just lower the opacity so it's not so prominent. I think about 20% is fine. I've added a couple of final details as well, just to add some little glows. So what you can do is create another layer on top of everything else and change the blending mode to add. So I'm going to use the Copic marker brush again. Yes, just testing it first. And what you can do is just add a bit of a glow on that dimensional effect. And that looks a little bit harsh, so I'm just going to lower the opacity of that layer to about 50%. I'm just going to go ahead and do all of the edges like that. And that's it, guys. I've added some highlights on the smiley face, on the stars as well, just on all of the edges like that. And you can see I'm not going with a straight line, kind of make it a bit rounded like that so that it looks a bit more dimensional. But yeah, that's everything that I have done for this lettering piece. Something a bit different. I hope it was fun. I hope you had a great time coloring your lettering, and I would love to see what you have made, so make sure to tag us. And that's it guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you had fun playing with those brushes. I know I did. And if you guys want more tutorials like this, make sure you subscribe, make sure you check out my lettering lounge, make sure you check out Jimbo's Patreon, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.